We did Canada's macroeconomic landscape.
So Canada has a highly developed and mixed economy. Their level of income, Canada falls with high income, and this is between the choices of high income, upper middle income, and low income. This means the level of income per person is measured by gross national income or gross domestic product. Canada is one of the world's largest trading nations. They have a highly globalized economy. Canada is one of the largest foreign suppliers of energy to the United States. They provide important resources like oil, natural gas, electricity. This is important because the energy trade strengthens economic relations. This creates jobs and investment opportunities for both countries. Canada's top three trade partners in 2021 were the United States, Canada, China, and Mexico.
So these are their macroeconomic stats as of 2024. Their GDP grew by 1.6. So this shows the economy is growing, but at a slower pace, possibly due to the reduced consumer spending or global uncertainty. The employment rate is at 6.7, which is slightly elevated. This could suggest that the labor market is cooling or that businesses are being cautious with hiring. And their inflation is sitting at 2.4, which is relatively close to the Bank of Canada's target of 2%. This suggests that inflation is under control, especially compared to previous years where it was much higher.
Canada's real GDP grew by 0.4% in January 2025, continuing upward for December. This is a positive sign, and it shows that the economy is still expanding after months of inflation-related challenges. What's encouraging is that this growth came from both goods producing and service producing sectors. On the goods side, we saw things like mining, oil, gas, and manufacturing. These industries are key drivers of Canada's exports and energy production. Economic growth is expected to rise about 1.8% in 2025 and 2026. This growth will be faster than normal, helping to use up the extra resources. Overall, this is a 0.4% increase in real GDP, and it reflects strong underlying economic conditions, even while inflation is still being brought under control. So we have unemployment. Like in many other countries, the unemployment rate in Canada is the measure of percentage of people in the labor force who are actively looking for jobs but are not currently employed. A higher employment rate might tell us more people in the labor force are having a hard time finding jobs. A lower employment rate, a lower employment rate might mean a stronger labor market because more people who need jobs are able to find jobs. As of February 2025, the unemployment rate in Canada was at 6.6%, showing stability in the labor market. Employment gains were seen among core age women 25 to 54 years old, while there was a decline among women aged 55 and older. The number of unemployed people dropped by 17.9 thousand. This means fewer people were officially counted as unemployed. This doesn't mean all the people who found jobs, but they could have left the labor force. The participation rate is the percentage of working age people who are either working or actively looking for work. This could mean that some people stop looking for work, and this would keep the unemployment rate stable even if job growth is low. The number of employed people rose by 1.1 thousand. This means um, 1,100 new jobs were added. This was far below market expectations, which meant weaker hiring. The weak job growth suggests a slowdown in hiring, which could show economic uncertainty or a cooling labor market, which is where the demand for workers slows down. It could mean that companies are hiring fewer workers and there may be less competition for jobs. If this trend continues, it could affect wages, consumer spending, and economic growth.
So for their inflation, the CPI rose by 2.4 in 2024, which was a significant drop from 3.9 in 2023. This means inflation is slowing down, but prices are still rising, just more at a more like manageable rate. Inflation was 2.6 in 2024, down from 4.5 in 2023, showing a consistent easing of price pressure. The Bank of Canada lowered its benchmark interest rate to 3% in early 2025. And the image in the middle shows how tariffs, like the Trump tariffs, could reignite inflation. Sectors like healthcare, autos, and garments would face much higher costs, as as would imported goods from countries like China, Mexico, and Canada. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, much of the world shut down. People stopped traveling, eating out, or attending events. As a result, consumer spending shifted from services to goods, with many individuals purchasing items like furniture, electronics, home gym equipment. At the same time, demand for raw materials such as oil, gas, and lumber dropped, causing for their prices to fall kind of drastically. The pandemic also caused major disruptions in the global supply chain. Many factories shut down um, and experienced like a lot of delays, which led to shortages and drove prices up to supply to meet growing demand. As economies began to reopen, demand surged again as people resumed activities outside from home. So, going back to the gym, going back to events, stuff like that. Compounding these economic challenges, Russia's invasion of Ukraine further destabilized global markets. Both countries are major exporters for oil, gas, and wheat, and fertilizer, and the war led to even more widespread price increases around the world.
So economic momentum is building as we go into 2025, but new uncertainties have emerged. The Canada economy is showing signs of strength and growth early in the year. Things like GDP growth, job creation, and business activity are picking up. Tariffs or taxes Tariffs are taxes placed on imported or exported goods. If new tariffs are introduced either by Canada or other countries, they can cause uncertainties for business. For example, if it becomes more expensive to import raw materials, companies might slow production or raise prices. Um, these new tariffs could make it harder or more expensive for companies to do business. That can lead that can lead to less investment, slower trade, or reduced consumer spending, all of which slow down the economy. Overall, Canada is in a stable but cautious recovery phase, balancing growth with inflation control. And here's our works cited page.